welcome. Thanks for joining. I'm your host, Serap again. Today, I'll be talking about how to navigate through ESG in business. We are going to talk about the reasons why companies are interested in ESG and they are integrating it in their business models. We are going to talk about materiality and we are going to do an ESG analysis. Okay. Let me go ahead and introduce myself very briefly so that you know who is talking. I'm an environmental engineer and I specialize in natural resources management. I had worked several years in the university in the area of scientific research regarding environmental topics. And last years, I started working as a consultant, collaborating with private clients. I am also the founder of British Consulting. You can find on the right hand side the snapshot of the website. Please go ahead and have a look. There are useful information there. There are very interesting articles about ESG and sustainability topics. And there is also a very useful tool for companies. It's a preliminary assessment tool to measure companies' performances. So it is it's sector specific and it is consisting of multiple choice questions, and you can identify where the company is weak or strong in terms of ESG so that you can start building your strategy to better your standing. Okay. Also, if you would like to connect with me on a professional level, I am on LinkedIn. You can see my profile on the left side. So go ahead and connect with me. We can have professional discussions. If you're interested, we can collaborate. So just do not hesitate to reach out. Okay, now let's go ahead with the webinar. I would like to start with the drivers in the market. So why companies are interested in ESG, or they should be interested in ESG. There are several factors. This is a short list, but the most relatable, most understandable ones. As you know, we are going through several global challenges. Climate change is one of them. For sure, you remember the latest global pandemic that we have been through. There is a gradual and continuous biodiversity loss that we are experiencing. In different regions of the world, there are food crises happening. And not to mention economical crisis, right? So, all of these challenges have something in common. They pose a risk for businesses. Different risk depending on the industry, right? Let's take climate change. Climate change brings extreme weather events with it. And the risk of extreme weather events, that unpredictable nature of it. So we don't know where and when these extreme events can happen and with which severity. Let's say there is a company, it's in agricultural business, and they are heavily depending on water resources. And while it was okay in the geography that they are working, they always had enough water for their operations. Suddenly, water shortages starts and they are having long periods of droughts. This is a problem, right? It affects business. And it can affect several segments, compartments of the business, right? It can be supply chain, it can be procurement, it can be a business in manufacturing, right? Think about the resources that companies need and effect of climate change on those resources. So, let's go ahead with the next one, public perception. As you know, there is a growing demand of society in terms of sustainability. So when they buy a product, they would like to know from which resources that product is manufactured. And at the end of life cycle, how it's going to be eliminated, right? Is there recycling? Is the company have recovery options, right? Repair options? How they are impacting the environment? And are they a good company? Do they have a good reputation? Are they treating their employees fair? Okay. Another factor for companies to pay attention to ESG is regulatory framework. It's a big one. Different regions of the world have different regulations. Here I give example from Europe. You can see CSRD, Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, which obligates large companies to disclose, to publish their report, ESG reporting, right? So basically, regulators want to know how much impact large companies are having on environment, on the society, right? So if you are talking about a large company, a multinational corporation, mostly publicly listed companies, they have to report already, right? And investor demand is another factor, right? Investors are the ones supplying financial capital for the businesses. So they would like not to take risks, right? If the company is paying attention to ESG, are they paying attention to environment? How is the human rights going on? And are they involved any litigations, any controversy, right? There are many dimensions of ESG that we will be talking about, and they can have an impact on the financial viability of a company. So investors are not just demanding this, they are also bringing some initiatives to the table so that companies go ahead and disclose their data, their information. CDP, a very well-known one, right? UNPRI, Global Compact, Climate Bonds Initiative. There are many others. So these are platforms that collect information, right? So it brings us to next pressure. So there is the data availability, right, of companies. So they may be publishing their report themselves. So on their website we can find these reports, hopefully audited by a third party, but also from outside through media, NGOs, we can gather this information regarding companies. So this information then would be used by rating agencies to rate companies' performances. So this gives a competitiveness to the companies to do better, right, in this area. And that's how it becomes a pressure as well for them. Okay. Now, I would like to talk about the company size and ESG. As you know, we have just talked that large companies need to publish. There are several pressures, right? And it is for their benefit that they are transparent and they have a strategy. Also, it's for their financial viability, right? They have more profits in the long term if they pay attention and invest in these ESG topics. What about small, medium enterprises? You may ask, do they have to? Does it make sense for them? The answer is yes. ESG matters regardless of company size. You have to see ESG as a tool that companies should use if it is bringing long-term benefits, long-term profits. Why not to use it? So basically through ESG, we are decreasing our impact for the world, but also we are paying attention to the risks that may come from outside to our company, right? There are several risks. There are transition risks, physical risks, right? So when they pay attention and start implementing environmental social governance factors, they will have profit in the longer term. Okay, as much as concerned for small medium enterprises, let's talk about advantages and disadvantages. So as you know, small medium enterprises are not so much familiar with ESG, right? Larger corporations already reporting, already aware of it, and they have their sustainability teams, and they have certain procedures for it, right? For a small medium enterprise, it's not obligatory, so they have to choose this for their sake, unless there is an external pressure, right? So there are certain strengths. Let's talk about strengths for an SME. As a consequence of the natural environment, smaller the company, there is direct leadership component, right? They have closer relations with their employees, with their local stakeholders, and in the community that they operate. And there is overall lower level of bureaucracy. So this is really favoring the process of change. So they can really use these advantages, right? And much more swiftly integrate ESG in their business plans. On the other hand, as we just talked, there are some challenges. First of all, unless there is an external pressure, they are not considering it because it's a new concept, and why to bother themselves, right? It requires time, money, tools, knowledge, and they don't have it. Actually, lack of knowledge is the biggest challenge for SMEs. Lack of technical know-how, right? So if this is the biggest challenge, how to overcome it, right? There are solutions. So they can start building this technical know-how through courses and trainings, right? There is availability, there is a sea of opportunities out there, and there are also trainers that they can come in their business facilities and do these trainings. They can employ a sustainability manager and slowly build a team. This is another option, an in-house sustainability manager. If they don't want to do that because of several reasons, they can always collaborate with independent consultants, right? And it seems to be most chosen option from my perspective too. You know, they find it cost effective, and many of the small medium enterprises actually collaborate with independent consultants. Good. Okay. So, how we do ESG analysis? What we need to know, right? I am sure you heard about materiality assessment, right? For an ESG analysis is fundamental. ESG analysis start with materiality assessment, but it is also in the core of ESG analysis. A little information for you. When we are talking about materiality, we are talking about two types of materiality. Impact materiality, which is the impact of the company on the outer world, and financial materiality, which is the materiality from outer world impacting company finances, right? So a company manufactures, uses energy, and emits CO2. This is an impact of the company on the outer world. And when, as a consequence of climate change, through extreme weather events, company can get some damages in their treatment plants or employees or any other thing, shortage of resources, etc. So this is an outer impact affecting the company financial materiality. Okay, so how do we start identifying materiality for a company? First, we are gonna think about ESG megatrends. There are global megatrends going on, right? So some of these megatrends will be resonating with the business. So what are they? We are gonna first identify those. And then we are gonna identify material value drivers under each ESG topic. So just to give you an example, ESG megatrends can be digitalization. Digitalization is a megatrend right now happening. AI, automation, right? And several other. Energy transition is another megatrend happening. There is a transition to renewable resources, right? Leaving behind fossil fuels, less depending on the fossil fuels and more integrating renewable energy, and so on, so many other subtopics. There is sociological transition. There are several trends going on in there. Consumer behaviors are changing. Population dynamics are changing, right? So material value drivers under each ESG topic, which we will be discussing further, are the drivers that may have a positive or negative impact on the company business, right? So when we identify them, we are gonna comment if they are a risk or an opportunity for the company. And after these, we are gonna measure the performance of the company. So how the company is doing in comparison to these material value drivers. And how do we do that? We need to design a set of KPIs. Through KPIs, we are gonna measure the actual state of the company, right? And after that, we are gonna evaluate how is the strategy response of the company. The current strategy in place, is it enough to overcome the challenges and grab the opportunities, or we need to shift, we need to modify our strategy? Again, we are gonna evaluate how is the flexibility of the business model. So the business model we have, is it enough? Does it oversee all the material value drivers? Is it prepared for the risks and opportunities? Or again, do we need to adapt our business model to changing conditions and trends, right? Okay, I would like to go one more time, step by step, about what I have just talked, right? Because it's very important. We are talking about materiality and further. So first we start identifying global megatrends, right? Which of them are resonating with our industry. And then we are gonna go ahead and identify ESG value drivers that affecting our company. And we are gonna comment, are they risk or opportunity for us? And then we are gonna go ahead and measure how we are doing with the current business as usual that we are having, right? We are gonna design, if we don't have already, set of KPIs, and we are gonna measure. So we are gonna have numbers then. And then we can comment on how is the company's response towards these risks and opportunities, right? I mean, how is the vision of the company? Are they seeing these things, or they have a blind eye? These also depends on the background of the people who are steering the strategy of the company, right? And after all of these, there are things to consider. So automatically we are gonna comment on how is the transparency of the company. Are they disclosing information? How their reputation is. Are they facing any controversy? How they are doing in that area, right? Are there any ongoing litigations? Any kind of corruption or bribery issue? How they are doing with human rights, right? Several questions to ask there. And at the end, we are gonna evaluate how each of these value drivers impacting the sustainability of the business model, right? The governance, and as a consequence, the competitive position of the company. Because if there's a certain transition going on, we are facing certain resource risks or any other. And if we are not integrating it, we are not preparing plans and future changes, right? Alternatives, that might put us in a bad situation in the competitive market. Okay. Now let's go ahead and talk about common ESG topics for companies, right? A very vital part of the materiality assessment. As I was telling you, under each pillar we have topics. These are the common topics that they bring some value drivers to companies, right? We are gonna identify what it is material for us and if it is a positive or a negative thing for the company and the stakeholders. So let's go ahead and start with environmental pillar. As you see, topics are changing from climate change to biodiversity. And I must say, environmental pillar is the most technical one, and all these topics, in one way or another, they correlate with each other. They impact each other. Let's start with climate change. When we say climate change, we mean we are asking the question how the company is impacting, what is their carbon footprint, right? And where the majority of emissions coming from. Is it coming from directly from company facilities, or it is a consequence of purchased electricity, or actually it is coming from the downstream of the company or the upstream. So maybe after they sell a product, during the usage phase of that product, the most emissions are released, right? So we are also asking the question, does the company have any targets, goals to reduce their impact? Are they relying on fossil fuels, or are they implementing some renewable energy technology to reduce their impact, their emissions, right? Okay, so the next topic is natural resources. Here we are asking the question, how efficiently is company using resources, right? What is the situation of the raw materials that they depend on? Are those raw materials in deficiency maybe in the near future? Or they are coming from renewable resources, right? What is going on in terms of that? Okay, in the pollution, you can imagine any kind of pollution to the air, to water, and land. In which medium company is releasing the pollution? Are they taking any action to eliminate that pollution, right? Is there toxic chemicals being released to the air, or heavy metals or nutrients? Which kind of pollution going on to the water resources, right? Same as land. And what are the programs and remediation actions that the company is taking? Okay, in the waste management, we are talking about which type of waste is produced, right? Is it hazardous waste? If it is so, how it is eliminated, how it is disposed, because there are special procedures, right? We may also ask, depending on the waste type, is there recycling or recovery programs, right? Collect, reuse programs. There are many questions to ask there, right? And this topic is very much correlated with the circular economy topic, right? Okay, in the biodiversity, which is also a very technical area, we can say that we will be asking questions if the company has a site, right? Working on a site. Number of sites that they are operating and the proximity of these sites to protected habitats, right? It can be, is there any deforestation? Is there a desertification risk? Is there any land cover change, right? Is it a business that impacting on the land cover? Many other questions can be asked, but in essence, biodiversity is about these kind of questions. Okay. Now let's continue with the social pillar. In the social pillar, we can group these in two categories: internal to company and external to company. As you may imagine, the last one, supplier, client, society relationships, is a topic external to the company, while all the rest is internal. So let's start with the internal organization. In this topic, we are looking how company is acting on innovation, for example. What is the percent of budget going to R&D, right? Are there trainings? How often they are organized, etc. Also, as employee-wise, we should ask the questions: how is the atmosphere in the company, right? Satisfaction rates, how is the absenteeism rate of the employees, etc. In the next topic, talent management, is the company able to attract talents? Simply, we are trying to answer this question. Is it a good place to work? How is their reputation, right? Especially if you are a business that you need human resources that very skillful and has certain capabilities. If you are looking for the best, you need to be a good place so that people should be choosing you, right? In HR efficiency, we are simply talking about how is the cost of human resources, right? How much company spends on salaries and how much they are in return generating revenue and profits, right? In diversity, we are talking about how diverse is the human resources, right? Like age distributions, female male ratio, background of people, ethnicity, race, and countries they are coming from. If it is a multinational company, are the regions represented by employees enough, etc. In the health and safety topic, we are trying to understand how is the company doing in health and safety issues, right? Do they have policies? Do they have trainings? Are they being audited by an external party in this area? And how are the statistics? Like, how is the health and safety statistics? Are there accidents, injuries, fatalities? And we should compare also these statistics with the peers of the company, right? Okay, so the external topics, we are looking to supplier relationships. So here we are trying to understand how is the complexity of the supply chain, right? Suppliers. And how is the dependency, supplier to the company, company to the supplier, right? How is the geographic pattern in terms of distance, in terms of other factors, risks such as maybe extreme weather events, that how that region, the geography that the supplier is doing, right? Is it facing some disastrous events or not, for example? In the client relationships, how is the reputation of the company in the eye of client, right? How is the satisfaction rates of clients? How the company is supplying data security, and such as how they are managing claims and product returns, etc. Anything, any question may arise from client perspective. In society relationships, how company is doing with the in the community that they are operating, right? Are there any litigations? Again, reputation, right? How the company is doing, how they are impacting, how they are with NGOs, media, with the regulators, right? Positive or negative elements. What are they? Okay. So we have concluded also social pillar. Now in the governance pillar, don't forget that governance pillar is cross-sectoral. So it applies to any company regardless of the industry or sector, right? Here we are also trying to evaluate board effectiveness and their strategy and oversight. So in the first one, board structure and independence, we are evaluating the consistency of the board, composition of the board, right? Diversity in the board, like in terms of age distribution, male to female ratio, most importantly, background, right? Background and experience wise, how it is. Because it is important to have diversity, especially in terms of experience and background. Imagine a board that they are all coming from the same background, and there is no one with ESG knowledge. So how they can oversight, right? How they can develop strategies when it comes to ESG. They can see the risks and prepare transition plans, right? It's very important. Independence of the board is very important too. Here we are meaning if the members are independent or not. So independence supplies no conflict of interest, right? Much more through decision making, right? Less chance of doing mistakes. Imagine 2-3 roles combined in one person, that this person is in the board, in the management. So the person takes the decision and then executes it and controls itself, kind of. So it is not favorable. Okay, executive compensation. Here we are asking, what is the compensation scheme, right? Is it disclosed? Is it approved by stakeholders? Especially from ESG point of view, are there any ESG linked bonuses, right? If there is, are they connected to certain KPIs? So transparency to be open and decisive, like there are bonuses and they are connected to this, because we have targets to achieve this, right? In ethics and compliance, we are trying to understand the company has some policies, right? Anti-corruption, anti-bribery. Is there a whistleblowing mechanism? Are there trainings in this area for employees, right? These are the types of questions and evaluations we would like to do. In the next one, transparency and ESG reporting. We are trying to understand, is there any ESG report published? If it is published, was it audited by a third party? So overall, in general, is the company transparent, right? Are they disclosing information? Are they accountable and responsible, right? Risk management, we are trying to understand if there is a risk management plan. There is, in addition to enterprise risk management plans, is there also ESG risk management, right? Is it integrated to the general risk management plans? And how is board doing in that sector, right? Are they doing regular meetings and trying to identify if they are exposed to any risks in terms of ESG, like what is going on, trends, and how they can affect them in the longer term? Okay, with this, we finalize the governance pillar. Now, let's try to put in practice what we have just learned. We have a case study. There is a fictional automotive company, and here we are targeting to do two things. We would like to identify material value drivers, but in terms of ESG megatrends and in terms of sub-ESG topics, right? And then we are gonna comment on if they are risks or opportunities for the company, right? We are gonna focus on this segment of the ESG analysis. So let's go ahead and start reading the case study. We have an automotive company that manufactures traditional cars, which is 75% of their sales. They act on battery development and recycling for EVs, 20% of their sales. They also manufacture autonomous vehicles, 5% of their sales. They have production facilities located in several European countries, also China and India. They are doing consistent investments on R&D and recycling of batteries. Over the last few years, there has been a decrease in sales of traditional cars, and also they received fines for tax evasion. Their client range spreads to 80 countries. The company also faced some lawsuits in India for several incidents of groundwater contamination. There are allegations by an NGO that the company slowly poisoning the air and water as a consequence of recycling of batteries. Against the resignation calls from NGOs, CEO promised 1 billion euros to social infrastructure projects. The company considers to fully outsource their battery recycling business to China and India. Also, they plan to grow their autonomous vehicles department in the future. In the last 3 years, they invested 30% of their R&D expenses in this division. The company decided to use only renewable energy for their production facilities. They substantially reduced their carbon footprint. Several strikes took place in India due to exposition to high level of risks, low compensation, and high level of workload. They have had 3 accidents in the current year with 10 fatalities in total. In the board, 8 members out of 12 are independent. CEO is also the chairperson and has 10% of stake of the company. Remuneration policy is disclosed and includes an ESG-linked bonus. However, it's not disclosed which KPIs are behind the bonus. The company is currently preparing their first sustainability report. Okay, so if you would like to stop the video and read it once again, that can be also good for you. So try to understand truly the company dynamics. And then we go ahead and start analyzing from ESG perspective the company. Okay, now let's identify megatrends and then material topics together with risks and opportunities. So I want you to think about the business. You have read the text, right? What they are doing, what they are producing, and the megatrends that would be resonating with their business. I believe digital transition and energy transition are the mega trends correlating with the business, right? Now we will be opening this up when we are identifying value drivers. So let's start thinking about material topics. Let's start with the environmental pillar. I believe climate change very much resonating, right? They are in the decarbonization and energy transition sector. So they are very active in EV battery and autonomous vehicles, right? And if this is executed properly, it's an opportunity because they can be part of the energy transition, right? Now, they are still manufacturing traditional cars, right? 75%. However, they started investments and they are planning to increase these investments on autonomous vehicles and battery development. So this is a positive element. It is definitely an opportunity that they are trying to grab in their business, because read the information. It is giving us that sales of traditional cars is dropping, right? So they are becoming a stranded asset. This is a risk for the business, right? So they are shifting to the EV batteries, which is an important component, right, for EV electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles too. So they are looking at the future, looking at the transition, and they are actually trying to innovate there. This is good. So they already integrated renewable energy in their facilities, in their production facilities. So they lowered their carbon footprint that is coming from manufacturing, right? This is another positive element. They are decreasing their impact. However, don't forget, we have read that in some of their facilities, they got impacted from extreme weather events, right? So they really affected financially from climate change too. So climate change actually posing a risk for them. Financial materiality. Okay. Another topic under environmental pillar, what it can be. I believe use of natural resources, right? So they are in the battery development, and this operation requires valuable materials, right? Such as cobalt, lithium, and nickel. So what is the situation of these elements in the near future? They might be in deficit. If they are, these may cause supply shortages to them. So there is a potential risk, right? They need to look for. On the other hand, they are in the recycling business. So they are driving precious elements, right? Also from recycling. So this is an opportunity. There is a risk, but there is also an opportunity for them. Okay, so what can be the other material topic for them? I believe it continues with pollution, because as much as they are doing good with recycling, unfortunately, they polluted environment, right? There were emissions to air and to water resources because of recycling operations, and they didn't remediate the situation. So this is posing a risk. Polluting, already bad, but not cleaning up is even worse, right? It is a risk. It brings bad reputation, and it may bring fines as well, right? Okay, so let's go ahead, try to think about other topics. Which other topics? And think about also social pillar. So, talent attraction. They are producing autonomous vehicles, right? Again, EV batteries, recycling. So they would need skilled and best talents, right? So the question is, are they able to attract talents? Is it a good place to work? How is their reputation? So far, from what we read, it doesn't seem a very, very good place to work, right? There are some controversies going on. There are some strikes happened, employee satisfaction is material, and they are not doing very good in there. As I said, employee satisfaction, actually it's another material topic, right? Together with health and safety. Let's continue again with the strikes and the accidents that happened, right? So it doesn't seem they are doing well in this area, right? They are not treating good their employees, too much work, too less compensation. Accidents are happening with fatalities, right? So this is actually a risk for them. This is a very material topic for them, and they are not doing very good. They need to do better. Okay. From governance pillar, we have read about board structure and independence in the text, right? We have the information that CEO is also the chairperson and has 10% of stake of the company. So this is not an ideal case because CEO has too much power, right? Can decide, can execute, and there is less control, right? And there is conflict of interest with the 10% of stake. In these situations, it is suggested to have a lead independent director, right? To make stronger the control mechanism. However, we haven't read anything like that, so we assume there is no lead independent director. In addition to 8% out of 12 being independent in the board, right? So it is not the ideal one. With the information that we have, we can say that it is a risk, right? I mean, it is not going in the good direction. There can be much more independence, much more control mechanism, and less conflict of interests. Okay. ESG linked bonus. This is material. It is there is an ESG linked bonus, so this is a positive element. However, there is lack of disclosure on which KPI this bonus is correlated. So there is a positive element and there is a negative element in the same topic, right? Okay. Business ethics. So we have read that there has been tax evasion in the past, right? They received some fines. They are moving some of their operations in high corruption index countries, right? Probably they are doing that because there are less regulations and softer environment in that sense. We have read that CEO avoided lawsuits through making donations. So as much as business ethics concerned, this is not a positive atmosphere. It brings bad reputation, right? All of these incidents brings bad reputation. Again, it affects the talent attraction and also in the bigger degree from outside, from society, there is a danger there to lose the social license to operate, right? In addition to physical licenses and permissions, a business needs to have also the social license to operate. So together with, again, referring to the pollution topic, for example, it's very material to them because it is bringing also a bad reputation, right? It is increasing their impact. So if they don't pay attention to these topics, not paying attention to environment, not paying attention to social topics such as the employees, right? Regulations, these may put them in danger in terms of cancellation of the social license to operate, which is one of the most dangerous things for a business, right? Okay, ESG reporting. So they are working on their first ESG report. We can take it as a positive element, right? They didn't publish yet, but they are working on it. So we can give the credit and say that this is a positive element, but we need to follow up and see how this evolves in the future. So will they publish? Will they be audited by a third party? How gonna be their transparency, right? Okay, so with these, we concluded our material value drivers, right? What we targeted to analyze. If we were to continue, the next steps would be the following. So we would try to understand the key issues of the company that we just identified. Are they resonating with the ESG strategy in place? Right? How is the current strategy doing with the reality? And then we would also go ahead and ask how these key ESG drivers impacting the economic performance of the company, right? We have identified some financial materiality issues as well, right? And many other factors may bring some cost to them, such as fines, possible fines, how they will be doing in the future with the tax, and regarding polluting environment but not cleaning it up, right? So and extreme weather events, how they are gonna affect financially the company. So these are the things to calculate. And the last, of course, we would check consistency with the business model. So we are checking business model versus the identified risks and opportunities. Is it a sustainable business model, or we need to adapt to some changing conditions, right? Certain transition trends and everything. So we would be zooming into these key steps. Okay, that's all for now. Thank you for listening. I hope you liked it, and please do not hesitate to comment and let me know. If you are interested, we can do a second webinar and do the whole case study, whole ESG assessment. So please let me know in the comments. And thank you again, and bye for now.